Planck National Accelerator Laboratory fire the world's most powerful X-ray laser at a molecule.
They were looking to see what would happen if you took an atom with a lot of electrons and hit it with a high energy X-rays. Could you knock the electrons out of orbit around the atom and produce something that had very few electrons? But the system behaved very differently than expected.
At first, the experiment goes as planned. Electrons are knocked out of their orbits like pinballs. But then, in 1/4,000,000th of a second, a powerful force sucks electrons into a void, and the molecule dramatically explodes.
It would suddenly start sucking in all the electrons from the rest of the molecule in a manner that they just had not anticipated.
The electrons were then compressed and then drew other electrons into the process. And, by golly, it looked like a black hole.
A black hole? A region of space that exhibits such a strong gravitational field that nothing, not even light, can escape from it?
Fundamentally, they're just a lot of mass crammed into a very small space. What does that mean? It means there's a very strong gravitational field around them. Light can't even escape. And that's where it gets the name black hole.
When one puts in spin into the black hole equations, one gets a much more exotic phenomenon. What happens then is you get a vortex around the black hole, a vortex of space-time.
And here we actually saw something that resembled the black hole, except it wasn't gravitational. It was electromagnetic. That is, it used the power of laser beams. Now, how is it possible? Well, it turns out that in Einstein's theory, not just gravity, but any form of energy, if it's concentrated enough, could become a black hole.
For decades, since their discovery, scientists have long believed that black holes could only exist in outer space. But if that were true, how is it that they can be simulated in an Earth-based laboratory?
Normally, when we think of black holes, we think of a collapsed star and a great mass. But with these new experiments, it's showing us that black holes can be created in different ways, including with electromagnetic energy or high energy pulses in a laboratory. And so, therefore, black holes could be in any place. There's areas around the Earth that we don't understand that have unusual characteristics similar to a black hole. And so it's possible that these places are also black holes.
If black holes can exist here on Earth, could their presence help to explain the numerous reports of strange phenomena going back thousands of years?
On Earth, there have been stories of people missing time or jumping a distance at much faster speeds than what it would have taken in their plane or in their boat. And that raises the question whether very strange things apply in the vicinity of a black hole. Maybe a vortex opens, maybe some type of passageway into the other realms and dimensions which exist all around us.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that evidence of humans taking incredible journeys through time-space portals exists in ancient texts from all over the world. One such example can even be found in the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible and involves the story of Moses on Mount Sinai.
Something very bizarre happened on Mount Sinai. There's an ancient legend that states God calls Moses to heaven. A cloud descended, and then it curiously states a door opened in the cloud, and Moses walked in. The door closed behind him, and he ascended. According to the Bible, Moses ascends for 40 days and 40 nights, does not eat, does not drink, does not sleep. 40 days passed for us on earth. How much time passed for Moses in heaven?
Exploration Agency just 5 weeks earlier begins spinning uncontrollably. The onboard altitude control system is unable to slow down the spinning. And over a period of hours, the satellite breaks into 10 fragments and is observed tumbling out of orbit. In the ensuing investigation, a significant factor emerges. The satellite star tracker system, designed to keep it properly oriented, experienced glitches whenever the satellite passed through a field of high radiation known as the South Atlantic Anomaly.
The Earth's magnetic field is generated deep in its interior by motions of liquid iron and other substances, the thermal currents generated by radioactive decay in the core, etc. So it's a very complex phenomenon. What we see on the surface looks like a magnetic field of a bar magnet, but apparently there's some kind of imperfection in it that is very deep. And it creates a very localized reversal of the Earth's magnetic field. This is called the South Atlantic Anomaly. Astronauts flying through this region or satellites are exposed to a very brief but intense field of radiation.
Comprising the area of the magnetosphere above much of South America as well as the Atlantic Ocean, the South Atlantic Anomaly has caused problems with spacecraft for decades. It is for this reason that the International Space Station requires extra shielding when passing by it. And why NASA laptops have crashed when the space shuttle flies through its intense levels of radiation.
Flashes of light, electronics will malfunction, and even spacecraft have to be specially shielded to go through this area.
Although scientists understand the nature of the South Atlantic Anomaly, there is disagreement as to its effects, and there is an increasing number who believe it may also create vortexes that can alter both time and space.
Nature has found thresholds and doorways that people don't even know exist that can open under these specific circumstances. If one can change the metric of space-time directly with electromagnetic fields, then nature itself, because of the enormous electromagnetic fields it develops in weather disturbances, for example, could possibly create its own electrodynamic black hole, rotating black hole solutions.
Many ancient astronaut theorists support this claim and suggest that our ancestors were so aware of it that they even carved numerous representations of it in stone all over the world. Inga, Brazil. Here stands an ancient rock formation known as the Inga Stone. The formation is covered with carved symbols that are of unknown origin and meaning. But some researchers claim to have at least partially deciphered the carvings and suggest they reveal that whoever made them had advanced knowledge of both astronomy and physics.
In the Inga River in Brazil, we find this incredible 150-foot-long, 12-foot-tall stone, the Inga Stone. It's covered with the most immaculate carvings, highly detailed, but totally mysterious. We don't know who exactly created them or what purpose.
They have the most strange carvings on the rock on the surface. There's also little petroglyphs and geoglyphs around the Inga Stone, and some of them have to do with constellations. The Southern Cross, Milky Way, the Orion constellation, and other constellations that were described in an area as well. Some people interpret that the spirals around it have to do with energy, vortex of energy. There is a magnetic anomalies on the Inga Stone, that's for sure.
We know that the Inga Stone contains astronomical data. And what's interesting about this is that the native peoples typically didn't make astronomical depictions. They made depictions of
same geographical area as the South Atlantic anomaly. Is it possible that the stone's enigmatic carvings were inspired by the arrival of an ancient space traveler, one who had landed here centuries ago? And if so, could the South Atlantic anomaly, or perhaps the largest and best known of its kind, be one of many similar anomalies that exist here on Earth? The Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea, Easter Island, the Indus Valley. These are just a few of 12 triangular zones spaced evenly around the globe, known for disappearances, high energy, and other unexplainable phenomena. Collectively, they have been referred to as the biovortices.
The Scottish-born biologist and cryptozoologist and writer Ivan T. Sanderson came up with a theory about paranormal phenomena occurring in different parts of the world. He believed that there were 12 principal locations where this would actually take place, and he referred to them as the biovortices. In other words, that they were quite violent in their action.
Sanderson was trying to find an explanation to all of these disappearances. And it was this geometric pattern on the Earth that he thought was a solution to what was going on, and that certain spots on the Earth were just anomalistic and had these strange energy patterns.
There is no question that his work proves to me that there's a lot more that we don't understand about this planet. Whether it's natural or some kind of paranormal episode, I don't know. But there's no question this planet is very, very unusual when it comes to these certain spots.
If extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past, maybe they simply harnessed what was already present in the Earth, and that they had the technology to bring these places into a higher energetic state where they could use them as black holes or wormholes or for other purposes.
Is it possible that the so-called biovortices, in addition to phenomena like the South Atlantic anomaly, could explain mysterious disappearances, and that there are locations on Earth where conditions are optimal for the creation of black holes, areas where humans could, without warning, be suddenly thrust into another space or time?
If you look at the bottom of a black hole, it could be a place where you want to think of a hole, actually, in space and time that reconnects somewhere else. That you can go through the black hole like a door or a tunnel and end up either in another part of the universe or in another actual universe.
Could extraterrestrials have used these so-called portals to visit the Earth in the distant past? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further clues can be found by investigating one of the places that in recent decades has been the site of more curious disappearances than any other: the Bermuda Triangle. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 1945. 5 Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, collectively known as Flight 19, set out on a training mission over the Bermuda Triangle. Without warning, all 5 bombers experienced malfunctions with their onboard instruments. They contact air control and report their mysterious difficulties.
All 5 of their compasses were not working correctly, and they had 2 navigational instruments that they could use, and they were not working properly either. It caused total confusion. They didn't know their position. So they did what a lot of other pilots had done in the past. They had made a series of turns, and that's what causes pilots to become confused.
The planes disappeared from radar, and their last communication consisted of nothing but eerie static. The Navy immediately launched 2 seaplanes to search for the missing bombers.
despite some claims in more modern times that Grumman Avengers have been discovered that might have been Flight 19, the actuality of the case is that it is a mystery of exactly what happened.
The disappearance of Flight 19 is one of many bizarre and unexplainable events that have taken place in the area that is now known as the Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle is really located off of Florida. The northern point of it is the island of Bermuda. It then goes down to essentially southern Florida and then out into the Bahamas. And this is an area that has historically had strange phenomena.
It is something that goes back all the way to the time of Christopher Columbus as he passed through this area, because he found that his compasses strangely didn't work as he passed through. We now know as the Bermuda Triangle. He also saw mysterious lights in the same area just a few days later after his compasses had failed.
The famous Mary Celeste ship was found in the Bermuda Triangle without any crew on it at all. And no one could explain it.
What's very bizarre about some of these instances is that these people vanished in front of multiple witnesses in circumstances that seem to be impossible. It's like these people were here and they suddenly just blinked out, as if they walked off the surface of the earth. My guess is that you're dealing with something that is dimensional, and when you go through it, there's that possibility you may never come back.
For decades, scientists and researchers have struggled to find a cause for the mysterious disappearances. They are equally puzzled by the numerous reports of everything from instrument failure to compasses that strangely point to true north instead of magnetic north.
Electromagnetic phenomena associated with thunderstorms that can perhaps open up portals in space-time that we never would have thought possible.
An analogy is that lightning is still poorly understood.
Lightning typically carries several million volts. This is not sufficient voltage to jump from a miles above the ground to the ground between clouds. Yet nature doesn't. Combine that with the strange location of the Bermuda Triangle, the collision point of these collective electrons. You can have a playground for exotic physics, I believe.
Mighty storm clouds, lightning flashes, and powerful ocean currents located within the Bermuda Triangle have unexpected and otherworldly effects. Ancient astronaut theorists believe such an audacious theory is possible and point to the story of pilot Bruce Perman as the best evidence that such incredible phenomena can and do exist.
On December the 4th, 1917, almost 25 years to the day after the disappearance of Flight 19, a pilot by the name of Bruce Gernon was in an aircraft flying between Andros Island and the island of Bimini when he had an absolute incredible experience.
The controls on his plane also went crazy. He felt in the end that somehow he had been in the Bermuda Triangle when it was activated. Since that time, researchers have been trying to find out exactly what happened during that flight.
In March 2018, ancient astronaut Jonas traveled to an airfield in West Palm Beach, Florida, to meet face-to-face with one of the very few men who experienced the strange power of the Bermuda Triangle and survived.
So what's our plan today?
Well, we're going to recreate our flight that we had in 1970. And I can show you on the chart here
We're going to go direct from Palm Beach right to this curved area of Andros Island on the western shore. And we're going to go down to 1,000 feet at this point. And that's where my experience in 1970 began. I am the only living person that has flown through the heart of it and then exited what I call a time tunnel vortex and survived. So have you ever retraced your flight? I've never been on the exact flight path that I was when I had this event. And that's what I'd like to take you through today, the exact flight path.
Into the Bermuda Triangle, and this isn't a one-way flight, is it?
No, sir. We'll be back.
Okay, I'm ready.
At the North Palm Beach County Airport, located 20 miles outside of West Palm Beach, Florida, author and researcher David Childress and professional pilot Bruce Gernon are about to retrace the exact path of a mysterious flight that Gernon made nearly 5 decades ago. It was a flight over the region of the Arctic Ocean known as the Bermuda Triangle, during which Gernon claims to have experienced an inexplicable shift in time.
So Bruce, it was 1970, and you were flying out of Andros. Who was with you on this flight?
My dad and our business partner was with us, and it was a routine flight. But this is the area where I took off and started my ascent. I was at 1,000 feet, just like we are right now. I started climbing straight out over that bank right there. There it is. That it? Okay. I don't know. It looks kind of eerie here. There's nothing much around, is there? Very remote area of the Bahama Bank. Well, what is that? Did you feel that? There it is. Right there. That was the weird. Did you catch that? Something we should maybe. Hey, this is out of control. It's okay, guys. We just hit a rough spot. Turbulence. How about that? Yeah. Wow. I have to admit, I'm actually glad we didn't vanish. That's right. This exact area here, where it did that.
Oh, premonition maybe.
Kind of, yeah.
All right, so did you think that anything strange was going to happen to you that day?
No premonitions, but this strange cloud formed right in front of us, and it was like a lenticular-shaped cloud. But it was just sort of hovering there. Strange. And as soon as I got up, it started expanding. And then before you know it, I'm inside. And so now I can't see anything. Visibility is near zero. There was lightning in there. There was flashes of light. And these flashes got more and more intense the deeper we went in it. It got darker too. It was almost like night and day. My co-pilot, my dad, he said, maybe we ought to turn around and go back to Andros. I didn't want to turn around and go back through this cloud. That was freaking me out. You know? It would have been worse.
There was no turning back.
I said to my dad, well, hold on, not yet.
Rather than turning back for land, Bruce decided to pull out of the cloud that the plane had become immersed in and continued on his flight path. But when he came out of the cloud, he realized that the situation was even more incredible than he first thought. His plane was surrounded on all sides by a giant storm, and there appeared to be no way out.
I felt like we were trapped inside this strange storm. And then I noticed a big tunnel about a mile wide and 10 miles long. So I said, all right, we'll go through that. My dad agreed. When we entered the tunnel, that incredible thing happened. A series of clouds formed a swirling line that was slowly rotating counterclockwise. It felt like we were hydroplaning. Somehow we were at zero
such a short amount of time. A speed that his small plane was not even remotely capable of.
But the people on the plane, except for a little bit of mist and fog around them, they don't really notice anything strange.
No, they didn't notice anything strange, but all their watches were set back 20 minutes. I believe now that what was happening was I was seeing the fabric of time. And I believe that is what creates the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle.
Could it be that the so-called tunnel that Bruce describes was actually some type of electromagnetic vortex? One that, like a black hole, could alter both time and space. For ancient astronaut theorists, the answer is a resounding yes. And they argue that even more evidence can be found by studying ancient disappearances not only of individuals, but of an entire civilization. Easter Island. Located in the Pacific Ocean, over 2,000 miles off the coast of Chile. This remote island was once home to the Rapa Nui people, who, after flourishing for hundreds of years, seemed to mysteriously disappear sometime in the 18th century.
It seems at some point it may be as much as 10,000 people. But about 100 years later, when more Europeans started showing up on a regular basis, it seemed to be down to about 1,500. So something happened at Easter Island to seriously decrease their population.
While mainstream historians have long debated the cause of the mass disappearance of the Rapa Nui, ancient astronaut theorists believe it may have something to do with Easter Island being located in one of the 12 areas that were identified by cryptozoologist Ivan T. Sanderson as vital vortices, places on Earth where strange electromagnetic activity is more likely to occur.
We know there are places around the world that have an unknown energy. Easter Island, Mexico, Egypt, Indus Valley, also in Asia, in Tibet, all around the world in these areas. Also they were built megalithic structures. How we can explain that? The only possible explanation is an ancient contact with sophisticated alien civilizations around the world.
The traditions of Rapa Nui are absolutely incredible because their entire society is based on this idea that they were seeded by none other than the Birdmen. So what were they describing? And so if you look at this whole idea of the Rapa Nui, what if the stories of the Birdmen are nothing else but a description of extraterrestrials that somehow